there was nothing bright about me. So, and I think that had everything to do with the fact that I was carrying baggage.
And pain.
I was carrying deep-rooted pain and issues. And so when I met him and he told me I would have these moments where I would be triggered by anything. And I would literally, we would be in the car and he would look over and I would be having a full meltdown silently because I wouldn't want to make it a big deal. He would say, Dee, breathe and let it go. He was like, it's me. You can do this with me.
I'm on a journey to discover, uncover, and recover love. Now, as a national playwright, I've penned dozens of shows about relationships. As a filmmaker, I've documented the most beautiful committal of lovers at weddings. And as a divorcee, I know firsthand the gravity of marriage and the pain of its loss. I'm Darian Whitfield, and welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I'm your host, Darian Whitfield. Let me tell you something. There's nothing better than two souls joined together in holy matrimony. And I'm so excited to speak with this next couple. Now, they're newlyweds, y'all. They've been married less than 6 months. She's a professional background singer. Her credits include singing with Myron Butler, Kirk Franklin, Bishop T.D. Jakes' group, Grace, Tori Kelly. I love me some Tori Kelly. Darian, I need you to introduce me to her. She's so dope. Now, Bruce. Now, he's a man after my own heart because his professional background includes acting in film and television and musical theater. He's a professional musician. His credits include Bazzi, Rashawn Patterson, Kelly Price, Chrisette Michelle. Welcome to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. My friends, oh boy, the Elliots, Darian and Bruce Elliott. Welcome, y'all.
Oh, we got clap.
Yeah, I got some applause. That sound all official. All I need is a whistle. You understand me?
That's it. You
man,
good.
how y'all doing?
We're good.
We're good.
Listen.
Yeah, absolutely good.
Darian. Now, the reason why I have you on here is because when you posted your wedding photo, I saw so much joy. I saw so much peace. I saw so much freedom. Yeah. And I said, I'm going to have to talk to her. I'm going to let her get through her newlywed things that y'all doing because I know y'all probably keeping that bedroom active.
Busy.
Amen, somebody. I'll let the church say amen. So I said, I'm going to let y'all go ahead and do what y'all do, but I'm going to definitely have to come talk to you. And I want to meet this brother, Bruce.
Oh, man.
Bruce, what you been doing, man?
Taking care of my wife and family and creating and, since we got this COVID thing, trying to stay sane. And
So how does it feel to be married, y'all?
I was married before for almost 10 years. Was in that relationship for a total of about 18.
18 years.
18, almost 19 years.
So y'all grew up together.
Well, yeah, because I was 16 when we met. And then we basically started living together like the day after my graduation because I moved out of my mom's house, got my own place. And then a month and a half into us living together, I was pregnant with my oldest daughter. Had her in 2001, got pregnant again in 2001 with the second daughter, had her in 2002, and we just sort of dated. We broke up for about 3 years, and us getting back together was us getting married. I mean, how transparent are we being?
Are we gonna keep it sane?
Okay.
So let me go and tell you what this podcast is about. Our motto is keeping it lit. We're gonna live intentionally and transparently.
Okay.
And so people can't heal unless we. And that's what I used to hate about churches is that people will tell you, yeah, we've been through some things. And then you go through some things, and you like, what, did y'all go through this? Because I don't think, you go through this. But no one is actually telling you what you've been through.
Absolutely.
And so
you got the right one. You're talking about lit, okay?
You're gonna keep it 100.
Oh God.
Because this is the thing. I knew when the day that we got married, I knew that I was making a mistake. I knew that I was making a mistake because I knew ultimately that I really wasn't ready to be, I didn't want to marry anybody based off of an ultimatum, but I did it because there were so many things going on.
Well, you had 2 kids at this time?
We had 2 kids. Yeah. And so everybody's thing was, Dee, he's the father of your kids and you don't want your kids to grow up with a step parent. Right. So let's go ahead on and do this. And I just knew that day that it just wasn't it. And especially when the woman that you're dealing with outside of me shows up at the wedding with family. Like,
really?
Ready to be married herself. Because come to find out, she had a wedding date planned for 2 weeks after when me and him got married. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like...
Hold on. He was engaged to 2 women at the same time?
I guess so. I never looked at it like that, but when I look back, hindsight is always...
2020.
More than 2020. Got to be worse than that. A woman showed up to my wedding ready to fight me and tell me that this is her husband that I'm marrying. And I went through with it anyway.
This was at your wedding.
At the wedding.
Was it before the wedding, during the reception?
Before the wedding. She stayed outside the entire time.
You decided to get married because of what?
I feel like I married because of maybe like an internal pressure that I had. I am a very mental person. I live in my head a lot. And so I'm having these conversations with myself like, Didi, you've been with this man, 5, 6 years, whatever. You don't want to still be with him 10 years down the line, because if you don't push him to marry, he's not going to marry. So I don't want to be anybody's girlfriend for 10 years.
And you got married at what age?
I was 23.
And you stayed married going on how many? Almost, was it 10 years? Or?
It was almost 10 years, yeah. It was almost 10 years.
What made you decide to say, you know what, I can't take this anymore. I'm done.
So I think I started there was a shift just in my life at the end of 2011, going into 2012. My pastor preached a series of messages called Live on Purpose. And
who's your pastor?
Bishop Jakes.
Okay, none other than the bishop. I just want you to just throw that name out there real quick. Bishop T.D. Jakes.
Dexter Jakes.
Come on, somebody. One of the best out there.
Literally one of the best. But he was preaching.
He been killing over this last couple. I don't know what's going on.
So this is the thing. I feel like COVID then kind of...
Done did something. It done did something.
He's always been dope.
But he's doing something else.
Yes, he's kind of hit another stride.
And I didn't think you could go any higher than that. Yeah. It's like, I just sit there and I was
his revelation and thought process will always have you just, because like he'll preach a message that you've heard the topic all of your life.
He'll turn that thing
and then you're just like, wait, I never even paid attention to that. Where did you get that from?
You feel like you ain't never read the Bible before.
Never. So he preached this message about living on purpose, and it resonated so much with me that I think what started happening was God started working on my mind, but he started working from the outside in, because I am one of those people that faith is a thing, but I really honestly need to see something working tangibly in order for me to be like, oh, okay, this is what's up. And that weekend, I get a call from a friend of mine saying, hey, I have a session with Kirk Franklin on Saturday, and he wants to know, can you come and sing alto? And I was just like...
You hadn't sing with him before?
Never. And I was like, what? So then I do that, and it goes from that session, can you come back on Monday? Can you come back on Thursday? And after a while, that's just what it was. And then that summer, I get a call, hey, let's put together a group. Let's go and do the sing-off. It literally took off from there. I haven't stopped working since 2013.
What was the name of the group that you went and did the sing-off with? Boy, that's some vocals there, boy.
10.
If y'all don't know about 10, oh my God, today.
The amazing Deonis Cook and Chelsea West, better known as Peaches, put together this group of 10 singers, and we went and did an a cappella show. Fast forward to about 2016, August, I go to a show. I had been singing with Chrisette. I sang background for Chrisette Michelle for about 3 or 4 years. And earlier in that year, we did our last show together because Grace was starting. So I was going from singing background with Grace to being in a 5, member girl group. And we needed to focus on that. So I quit singing with Chrisette, started singing with Grace, but at the same time was still moonlighting as Tyrese Gibson's background singer. And, August comes, Chrisette comes to Dallas to do a show. She calls me and says, hey, I want you to come to the show. I go to the show, and he is her MD.
Okay, come on.
Here we
go this connection. Here we go.
So that's how it was. I went to the show, but the thing was, I had no clue of who he was, had never met him a day in my life, had never even heard his name. but we have mutual friends. So me and the mutual friends went to the show together. He comes down after the show and the friend introduces us. And I was just like, you know, okay.
Yeah.
This little young boy,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like, he cool, whatever,
Yeah.
that's it. We were planning on hanging out after the show to go get something to eat, and I was asking him, hey, are you coming to get something to eat? And he was like, well, I got to wrap up everything here, but I'll let, you know what I'm saying, our other friend know. And I kept asking, which is so unlike me, because I don't ask questions of men multiple times, right?
Oh, she said, I don't ask questions of men multiple
But
times.
I kept asking him, are you coming to eat? And he was like, okay, cool. So he calls later on, and our friend goes back and picks him up. And we're sitting at a table that was pretty much just like this. The only open seat was in front of me. He comes and sits down, and he was like, so what you think of the show? Because he's the MD. Mind you, he's coming into a situation where I used to be the BGV on the gig, and he had to hire 2 new BGVs.
So when y'all sat down at the table after the show, you're married at that time, right?
I'm married, yeah.
Was there any type of chemistry whatsoever?
No, not in the beginning. Like when he sat down and asked, how was the show? I said, oh, the band, I thought y'all were dope. Y'all aren't as aggressive playing as what I'm used to. But I was like, I thought that y'all were dope. I said, now the background singers, you probably need to get some more, because that wasn't it. And he was just like, well, and my other friend was like, I mean, you wanted to know her opinion, so here we go. And we kept talking. The rest of the table was talking. And at some point,
there was a moment. But it wasn't. And it's weird when we like tell people this story, and you know, our friends and stuff like that. It wasn't a moment that we knew at the time.
But when y'all look back at it,
when we looked back at it, it was like, yo, do you remember when we did that? And then it was a thing. So basically what happened was we were talking, and like I said, everybody else was at the table, and we just looked at each other.
Like literally
just
looked. And it felt like, you know, it felt like the restaurant was empty, and it was literally just us. And it probably felt like it was like for like 5 or 6 minutes, but it probably only happened for like 30 seconds, maybe. But it was that. And I think that at that point, that's when I really said what I felt, you know what I mean, just in my spirit. I was just like, our souls knew what was going to happen. But that was, you know what I mean, that was it. And but after that, you know, we just really I think that was kind of like icebreaker, you know what I mean? And so we knew that it was like, okay, well, we're going to be connected. We're going to be friends. And that's basically what it was.
Neither one of us was thinking this is going to be a relationship,
so
because he had a girlfriend.
Yeah, I was in a whole relationship.
You had a whole relationship.
Yeah, she was married, so
and kids running around at the house. So it was just we were just going to be friends.
What it was.
This 2012. Then
that's 2016.
That's 2016.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so 2016. This is when that occurred.
Yes.
When was your divorce? So you go back home.
I go back
living
home.
Life.
And the thing was, and what I want people to understand is, I did not go back home acting like somebody's wife. I never acted like a wife from the beginning.
No, you didn't.
I did nothing.
Didn't.
I literally did not.
When I tell y'all, even though she was married, I said she married. I'll be trying to stay out people's business. But I'll be having some questions.
The crazy thing is when we actually met, even like just throughout that night,
I
knew where the relationship was, and I didn't even
He
ask
never
her.
said nothing
I
to
never
me
said
about
anything
it. I don't
about
even
it.
think that we talked about me being married until a couple of days after he got back to LA.
For sure.
And he was just like, so you're married? And I said, I am. And he was just like, so like, what is that? Again, he wasn't asking it like, oh, I'm trying to see what's up. No. At this point, we've had hours upon hours of conversation, and we're just basically sharing our life with the other. And I told him, I said, I've been planning to leave. I just have not. I kept saying, I haven't felt the release to leave yet.
That's interesting when we say we haven't felt the release.
We just hadn't recognized the release.
Yeah,
because multiple releases.
Yeah, some people they go through that. Some people need that. Then, like she said, for Dee Dee, it's a thing of where I need to feel something tangible. I need to, because moving moving in like straight faith or anything like that is not.
It's a struggle.
It's a struggle for her. So
it is. So you're a logical person.
Oh yeah,
Very
for
logical.
sure. She
And
needs
if
somebody
I
to be
really-
like,
yep,
leave.
that would actually be the best way.
You know what I mean?
So did it take him to tell you to leave?
It took him and I getting into an argument and him saying the next morning he left the house and texted me and said, I think that we should go our separate ways.
Now this wasn't
What year
out
was
of
this?
the normal.
This
though.
was
Okay.
December 2016.
2016.
And the thing is, we would get into arguments, and he would always say, at least for like 5 years before that, he would say, you know what, I don't think this is gonna work. We need to just go our separate ways. And I would always just be like, man, whatever, because I did not feel confident in the fact that I could take care of my kids by myself.
Yeah.
I didn't have Darian and Trinity for me to raise them alone.
Of
And I
course.
was really trying my best I just wanted to know that I could do it by myself. And for some reason, I had been fooled into thinking, now mind you, I've always worked. I've always had a job. I have always been able, on paper, to take care of my kids by myself.
Something we say psychologically to
But
ourselves.
for some reason,
Yeah.
I didn't believe that I could do it for real by myself. And there have been so many discussions with me, with my mom, with whoever. And I just, for some reason, it didn't click until December 2016 when he told me that. I started packing my stuff. When he came home, I was gone. The kids were still there. I left.
Where'd you go?
I went to a friend's house. Went to my friend's house at 2:00 in the morning. The kids FaceTimed me crying. They were like, Dad told us that you left and you're not coming back. And I told them, I said, when y'all get out of school tomorrow, I'm going to come and pick you up. I said, if you don't want to go to school tomorrow, you don't have to. You can just wait on me. It's cool. Because at this point, Darian and Trinity had been seeing me and their dad fuss and fight
Kids see
all
everything.
their
Kids
lives.
see everything.
So when I went over to the house to get them the next day, when we got to my friend's house that evening, I said, how would you guys feel about me and your dad not being together anymore? And these little girls gonna tell me,
We thought
y'all was gonna leave
a long
each
time
other
ago.
a long time ago. And
I
I
hear
said,
that all
so
the
you
time.
mean to tell me
that I stuck
stayed
around for
and
y'all, and y'all already said that we should have.
y'all could come and tell me everything else, but couldn't tell me, you know what? I just don't think. But then it isn't their responsibility to recognize what
You should have
me
recognized.
as an adult should have already known.
Yeah.
So that was it. I want people to be clear on what this is. I never one time when I left had a discussion about going back. When I left, I knew I was gone.
Oh, yeah.
And so the biggest thing for me was getting over myself to be able to file, because I still didn't file for months after that.
The divorce was final in 2018, right?
Yeah.
In 2018. During this whole time, y'all are communicating with each other.
We're
y'all
communicating. We're basically building this friendship
Yeah.
that had already been building from the day that we met.
Right.
Because the second conversation that him and I had the next day after we met, I told him about being abused by my dad. What made me look at him differently, but I still tried to make it
Still platonic.
just be platonic. But what made me look at him differently was when I told him about being abused. And the first thing that he said after that was, can we just, because I said it and then kind of moved on to something else. And he was just like, whoa. Can we take a minute and can we pray real quick? And I was just like, can we pray? No one has ever said, can we pray? What are you doing? So he prayed and I was just like, okay, this is new. I've never.
Hold on, let's talk about that. So when she told you about the abuse that she's been through with her father, this is in the news. It's everywhere. everybody knows about it that follows her. What did you hear in that moment? What role? Were you just a friend in that mind?
Yeah.
Or did you feel like did God speak something to you before that moment and say, you know what, this is a person you're gonna be with, but just fall back a little bit and let me walk straight?
No, that didn't come till later. Literally, what she's talking about is this is the next day after we met.
Oh,
So
in
no one-
2016.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
it
we
hadn't-
rewind it back to
it hadn't-
2016.
yeah, it hadn't become public
nobody
yet.
knew, you know what I mean? Nobody knew
Okay.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think at that point, just because It's so funny when you like, oh, can I get to know you? That never happened.
We
literally was just talking. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And she was just like, that's when we talked about your marriage. Because I was like, so you're married. Like, let's unpack that. Okay, what what I'm saying? What, like, where is that? Because like I said before, when we met, I felt where I knew where the relationship was, and so I just wanted to know what you're dealing with. I can't call myself a friend if I don't know. So we talked about that, and then she tells me about her dad. The crazy thing about it is that people who know the relationship that they had, you know what I'm saying, before of course all of this came out or whatever. So we would look at it just to be like, wait, what? And so it was just like, okay, it's a lot happening. Can we pray? And I think that was just natural.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, to me, because that's just what
Who
I
you
do.
are.
So I was just like, okay, we need to literally stop and handle this now, because it wasn't necessarily a triggering thing at that point.
It didn't.
It was literally just a conversation.
Yeah.
But I think that was just things that, the Lord was just kind of putting in my spirit to do. I wouldn't say he was just like, you need to. It wasn't that. It was literally, I felt, okay, at this point, let's pray and just cover it.
Let me tell you something. This is so impactful, and I believe God gives us markers in life, and those are markers that we go back to find a defining moment in our relationship. Yeah. And talking offline to Darian, this is a defining moment because of something that happened with her husband.
Yeah.
Unpack that and talk about why we're calling this a defining moment.
So in the beginning of my relationship with my ex-husband, I was, and when I say beginning, I'm 8 months pregnant with our oldest daughter,
and I'm 18 years old.
I'm 18 years old. I'm living with my mom and my stepdad, and my stepdad and I have always had a volatile relationship. It was just a known thing in my family, amongst my friends, whatever. This particular day, we had gotten into it, and I was sitting in a chair, and I'm huge pregnant. Because at the time, I didn't know I was 8 months. My doctors were telling me that I was 7 months. So, I'm sitting there, I'm huge, feet swollen, whatever. And we get into it, and he said something to me, and I said, "You can kiss my blank."
Your ASS.
Yes. And he said, now, my ex-husband is standing behind me
He's
with
just
his
your boyfriend
hands.
right
Yep,
now.
he's my boyfriend at the time. He has his hands on my shoulder. And when I said that, my stepdad responds and says, "It ain't no good because your dad has had it." And I lost it. Like, when I say I saw nothing but red, it was like a bull and a matador. Like, I'm out of here. So I'm screaming, I'm throwing stuff. And he was like, you getting out of my house today? And I was just like, I don't care. I don't have to be in your house. So I got my stuff and I went back to my boyfriend at the time's apartment. I'm trying to get his attention. He's not paying any attention to me. So when I finally do get him to talk to me, I said, "What is your problem?" And he was just like, "Man, why you ain't tell him to get off you? Why you ain't tell him no?" And I was like, why didn't I tell him no? And at that very moment, I know this was the Lord that I heard tell me, "That is not your husband." I didn't trust the Lord enough to be able to hear what he had to say and saying, "Well, you know what? This is the best route for me because that's my father." I didn't look at God as a father at that time. I looked at him as this all-powerful being that if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to have to suffer my wrath. And I just sort of felt like my marriage was the result of me not trusting. So when people would say, "Did you ever pray for your marriage?" No, never, not one time. Never went to the Lord and asked him anything about my marriage because I felt like I was out of order when I did it. There's no way that he's going to
come and bless it and fix
There's
it.
no way that he's
like
going
God
to
can't
bless
bless
it
mess.
because I knew I wasn't supposed to be marrying him anyway. So that's
a deep concept because that's
It
interesting
is.
because that makes all the sense in the world. It's like when you know that it's almost like saying, "God, I'm finna go sell this dope.
Yep.
I need you to protect me.
Yep.
I need to make as much money as possible, Lord.
Yep.
I need you to bless this." And God be like, "I'm not
I
in
didn't
that."
even. And so that's the thing. Like, and I feel like so many times we put the responsibility of keeping a marriage together on women in the church. And, you don't hardly ever hear,
The man.
you don't hardly ever hear about a situation where two people are apart and people are telling that man, you need to, you know what I'm saying, you need to pray for your wife and you need to go and get your wife. It's always, since it's become public knowledge that I got divorced before me and him got married, it was a thing of, well, Didi, you know, you need to pray about reconciliation. Why is it on me to pray about the reconciliation? Like,
when I say I can't stand when church folks do that is so annoying to me.
It doesn't make sense though. We got to make it make sense though.
It is because y'all
we're
not
talking about
people's
real lives,
you're not
bro.
living in the marriage. You don't know what that person is going through.
You don't know what.
Idea.
You have no clue. And this is the thing.
And you got to trust their spiritual maturity to know that they're the ones that chose to get married to this person. They also reserve the right to get a divorce.
I tell people all the time, Bruce does not come from dysfunction at all. How he's able to recognize dysfunction is because his lens has always been different.
That's what I was about to say. And that's interesting. So that wasn't intimidating to you. You get with a woman that has what's considered, and I hate using this word because I don't never call baggage, but by public opinion, it's called baggage. Mm-hmm. She had this ex-husband that I don't even know if he even cheated on her, if you can call it that. He just had an open relationship with other women. Yeah. And so he just had a lifestyle. He was messing with other women. She comes with a package because she has these two amazing daughters. Mm-hmm. And she has this story, this history of this sexual abuse from her father. Mm-hmm. And now this is what you're taking on as a wife. And you come from a non-dysfunctional background. Mm-hmm. What was going on in your mind during that time? How'd you process all this?
The only way that I can answer that is God told me that this was my wife.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think in it's just with church folk and just all that kind of stuff, people say that all the time. It's just like, oh my God, you know what I'm saying? That doesn't happen and da-da-da. No, it happened. Like he told me that, you know what I mean? This is my wife. I remember what I was doing, where I was at, what was going on. And then I think it was like 2 weeks later, he confirmed it with me, and then he confirmed it with her.
Really?
Yeah.
And so I think at that point, I'm just a person. Like I said, I'm a creative, and I really love God. It's not a thing of where, you know, I got to be displaying and show whatever. I really love him and I really trust him, and I just feel like I'm the opposite of where she was before. It's literally just like, okay, well, he said it, so, you know, whatever. I don't know how it's going to get done, but I think that's our problem is we try to figure out, we try to figure out the how. I think with us as men, when we deal with a woman, or we're trying to get to know a woman, or we're trying to date a woman, or whatever the case may be, it's literally in that space, especially if she has kids, we kind of push the kids to the side, and it's just like, oh, okay, just cool. Well, I'm gonna deal with the one. I know she got kids, but and that's not how you deal. You know what I mean? You don't. When you get a car, you buy a car. You don't just get the car. You know what I mean? You got the maintenance. You got the note. You got the maintenance that got to come with it. Insurance. You know what I'm saying? You got insurance. There's so much stuff that you have to, and that's the thing that we don't call that baggage. So at the end of the day,
you better teach right now. Hold on, you can't just walk away from that like that. Darren, did you hear this? Did he just preach a whole word right there?
Always.
No, I'm talking about did he just preach a whole word right there? He
preached a whole word. He compared this to a car, and he had to break it down in a physical sense for people because there are people like me who need to see it broken down physically.
We don't call that baggage. We say, okay, we got this gap insurance, we got this insurance, we got this. You don't say, you got that car, you got all that baggage, which be like, oh, you got this new car. It's so beautiful. Take me for a ride in.
That's it.
And like those are her kids. No, they're our kids because they're my responsibility.
Have you been married before?
No.
Have you ever been engaged before?
I've been engaged.
What made the engagement not go through?
That was her. She was very influenced, kind of at the time. And I mean, we were young. I think I was 22. Oh yeah. And but I mean, for me, I was just like, okay, cool. Like, I'm ready. I've been waiting for my wife since I was 12. So okay.
So you're a musician. So let me break this down. You're a musician. Now, musicians, y'all can have y'all pick of the litter. Y'all can have all the women that you want. Yeah. But you were a man that wanted to be married. Where did that come from?
I'm lucky because I still have a great grandmother that is, alive. But my great grandparents were married for like 70 years.
Okay, that's what it is.
My grandparents are married for like 50, 60 years. My aunt and uncle, they've been married for 33 years or something like that, and my parents have been married for almost 40. So
you've seen it.
So so
your whole life.
Yeah, and I never was that person.
That is abnormal. You realize how abnormal that is?
For sure. Now here's the crazier part of it being, abnormal. I want to say all of those relationships, if I'm not mistaken, was those many years no infidelity.
So at what point? So how did you tell her? Will you go with me? Circle yes or no. When that moment happened? When did you say, "Will you be my girlfriend?"
Gosh.
When that moment, and was it a conversation of, "Hey, I'm not gonna play games with you. This is not. I'm gonna go and date you, see what you like, and then we're gonna get married. You're my wife. We're just gonna go through this process."
We had a lot of like hard conversations in the beginning, because what we have to keep telling people, is she was married, I was in a relationship, we were friends. I would call her to talk about my relationship and where it was, in that it wasn't a situation where I'm like, we going through this, so that it wasn't that I think we were FaceTiming, and because that was our mode, because she's a texter and I hate texting, I talk on the phone and she does not like that, so we came to the compromise of FaceTiming. But we were FaceTiming one day, and literally it had been sitting just on my shoulder, and I was just.
But you wasn't living in Dallas, right?
No,
you were living.
I was in LA.
You were in LA during this time,
and I was just like, say it, and then I'll say it, because I knew what I knew what it was, and the reason why I feel like it had to be that way was because saying things or whatever, when it comes to her, that's what makes it real. Yeah, you know what I mean. For her,
it was already real to you.
Yeah, so I think at that point it was just like, okay, and so she said, "I love you."
I said, "I love you" first, and he wanted to make sure. His thing has always been, if you say it, it validates what we're doing.
For sure.
Because he can feel whatever he wants to, and you just...
Because that's not, it's Dee. Like, people don't understand. Like, me coming to her and saying I love you is not something foreign to her. Dudes say that all the time. Dudes say that even now in our 4 months of being married. Okay? I know who I married, a public figure. Okay? I moved to her city.
Dudes every time they love you, do
So, that's just what it is. So, I said, if you say it, you know what I mean, it gets real.
Soulmates are mirrors. They literally are not telling you what you want to hear. Bruce is the only man that I have ever known in my life that was not family, that could actually check me and would make me feel like he probably has a point. Because Bruce would tell me, he would just be like, that way of thinking is trash. Why would you feel like that's okay? I told him one time.
That's good.
I told him one time when we weren't, I was, I had already filed and all of that. And I told him, if this is too much, feel free to date other people. And he was just like, why would you tell me that? And I said, well, this is the thing, because I understand that you're a man and you're away from me. This is long. We literally were long distance, getting to know each other for over a year. And so I'm like,
hold on, stop. Did you really mean that?
I did.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So it wouldn't hurt you.
It would not have hurt me, because I've set myself up to be able to cover me. Yeah. Even if I loved him as deeply as I did, I was going to cover me. Yeah. I was going to cover me regardless.
But you've been doing that your whole life.
And that's the thing. He was sent to break down all of that. So whatever the chisel had to be, we were just going to have to deal with the fallout. But I was going to cover me regardless. I literally did not allow myself.
Ooh, there's some good stuff. I'm getting teary-eyed right now, because I understand the process before the promise.
And people don't talk about that type of stuff when we're talking about getting out of a marriage, and then somebody coming to you as pure as he is. You can't still be a brick wall with somebody this pure sitting in front of you. There's no way.
I was willing. Like I think that was the thing. Not that I think that was the thing. I was willing. willing to wait. I was willing to say, you know what? All right. If this is what this is, then this is what this is. There was a lot of things that went with how she would say what she would never do. You know what I mean?
What do you say about yourself when you say that?
Okay, well, see, I changed it because you. Okay, so I said. When I say it, I say that when I came to Didi, I was basically all of her nevers. So it
sucks.
Like, and I don't know
why that's about to make me cry, but
it's beautiful. No, this is beautiful. This is some beautiful stuff. So this is beautiful.
But
unpack that.
Oh my God.
So basically, the way that I say it is I'm younger.
Yep. I would never date anybody younger.
Yeah, I would never date anybody younger.
6 seconds.
You know what I'm saying?
6 minutes, 6 seconds. Definitely not 6 years.
And so it's that. It's I'm another musician, you know what I mean? And that was definitely a thing that she was not trying to, deal with again. I'm light skinned, so that was a whole, different type of situation. So it was that. And then it was just certain things like I would kind of catch myself and be like, okay, is this something else that she would, you know what I mean?
Let me ask you this, Didi. Give words to those tears. Why are you crying?
I didn't make me cry.
When he says he was, my list of nevers, I just felt like, even though he never made me feel like I was too much, he never made me feel like my life was too much.
Yes.
I just didn't feel like somebody that was, on paper, people could have easily said, you're too good for him because I had this experience, whatever. And in reality, Bruce has always been too good. Bruce has always been too good for me. I have the potential to destroy him.
Yeah.
If we really wanted to be
Real.
honest.
That's real.
Because he's coming to me almost with a blank slate.
Yes.
He don't have he don't have the marriage under his belt, and he don't have the random kids all over the place. And, I'm coming in with possible debt from a previous marriage that thank God I didn't have to deal with. But he was just always too good for me. There was nothing bright about me. And I think that had everything to do with the fact that I was carrying baggage.
And pain.
I was carrying deep-rooted pain and issues. And so when I met him and he told me I would have these moments where I would be triggered by anything. And I would literally, we would be in the car and he would look over and I would be having a full meltdown silently because I wouldn't want to make it a big deal. He would say, Didi, breathe and let it go. He was like, it's me. You can do this with me. So when all of the stuff happened with my dad and it became public, I woke up that morning. I knew that this was coming because I had seen the other girls post 2 days before. And my mom and I had talked the previous night and she said, Didi, I think that it's time for you to say, what happened to you. And I was just like, I had been talking about being abused, but I had never told anybody who it was. Mm-hmm. And so when my mom said, well, Didi, if I tell it, she said, will you allow me to tell it and protect you in the process? The only thing that made it okay for her to tell it was because I knew that he was here. And so I knew that I was going to be able to deal with it. So when I woke up that day and my phone had completely locked up because there were so many messages and repost and reshared, Bruce told me he took my phone and he said, don't respond to anything right now. We just have to sit in this. And that's what we did. We did that. I went to his house and I stayed at his house for 2 months?
4. What?
I wouldn't come out of the house. I wouldn't go anywhere. I wouldn't do anything because my thing was I felt like God had already prepared us for that moment because I had that conversation with him the next day after we met. And he was like, let's pray. So when I woke up that morning and we saw all of the stuff on Facebook, Bruce was like, we gonna pray. I would not have made it through. 2018 was the worst year of my absolute life because I don't think that people get there were two sides to my dad that I did not let everybody see. There was the villain side of him that did not take responsibility for what he did to me. And then there was the side of him that was just a really cool dad. I could tell him anything, whatever. We were just cool. So not only am I having to deal with the sudden death of my relationship with him, but then I'm also having to deal with the small whatever of me going through a divorce. The divorce was completely overshadowed by this. So when people say, I felt like my life was over after my marriage ended, I didn't feel that way.
No.
And I've learned now that I can't make apologies for the fact that I didn't feel.
Oh, no, you can't
I just
apologize
didn't
for your
feel
life.
it. I didn't feel it. I was way too concerned with trying to keep my own mental stability right. And I wouldn't have been able to do that had it not been for Bruce, because he was there every step of the way. Like I started having anxiety attacks. I had never dealt with any of that before in my life, ever. So I'm putting all of this on this man who came to me with nothing. And he's just like, I'm built to do this. I've never had to do this before, but because God told me that you're my wife, I'm built. I literally have been groomed to deal with this, even though he never had to deal with it before. Yeah, I didn't post a couple picture of us until August 2019. And then the next picture y'all saw of him was us getting married.
Yeah, so people like, I got married fast. He's like, boy, you understand?
No.
This was the process. This seed been planted a long time ago.
We were so solid, and we are so solid. Bruce and I have discussions where sometimes I will get too hype, and even my too hype with him is nowhere near what people have seen it be. Because Bruce, as laid back and as cool and, whatever, there is a dark-skinned man on the inside
that
of
light-skinned
him,
man.
baby, because you know how it is in culture. Light-skinned men just have traditionally been the ones that would just be like, whatever. I'm too pretty for this.
I'm too pretty. I'm light-skinned. I ain't got to raise my voice.
I don't have to raise my voice. And he won't. Bruce will literally sit there and tell me, he'll be like, Dee, that's not how we communicate with each other.
When I say I love it when people can do that, because that's opposite of me, and I'm trying to be like that. Like my best friend Kenny Lattimore is like that, and I was like, I want to be like you. I invited Dee Dee to a birthday party that I had. I had a birthday dinner, and I was like, if you just want to just get out the house, just come to the restaurant. We just let us love on you.
Okay, got it.
I said, let me just love on you. Just come to the party. Just you ain't got to worry about it. We'll pay for everything. Just get away.
I remember.
She said, I'm just gonna stay in this house.
I was at his house. And that was another thing. There were a lot of things about me in that marriage that was not right. I will be the first one to admit that I was not a wife, period, to him. I take responsibility for the fact that he may be damaged from something that I did or something that I said. I have not always been the woman that would uplift my man. I have a way with words that will literally break you down to your ankles. Yeah. And I did it constantly with him. So if what I said drove him out, if what I said made him feel like there was a vacation with somebody else, I take responsibility for that. Good. But that is that I did then is what makes me appreciate him so much more, because Bruce is unlike any other man that I've met.
Let me tell you something what's so beautiful about what's happening in y'all's relationship, in y'all marriage. Not only are you providing healing for her daughters are watching. Yeah. Dee Dee, when I tell you I'm so proud of your strength, you're the epitome of what an overcomer is. And brother, I got to shake your hand. Because let me tell you something. I got to shake your hand because you are showing men how to level up and be a man. And I'm telling you, hats off to you, brother. And I'm telling you, I'm proud of you and I honor you as the man of God that you are. When I looked up what the word husband meant, it came out to be, it goes through the etymology of all this, but it says householder. And a householder is someone that can hold that house together. And as a husband, that's what we've been called to do. That's what we've been qualified to do. Most women who have a problem submitting to men is because they're not worth being submitted to.
Oh, for sure.
That part.
It's definitely.
And when she said, What you want? Whatever
Yeah.
you like. Whatever you like. I've been told to please you. Whatever you like.
Yeah.
Coming to America on you. So
Yeah.
that's what it was, and that's what we have to understand as men. That's what we have to understand as women. That's what we have to understand as husbands and wives. Is that it's not a competition.
No, not at all.
It's like we are brought together to bring out the best out of each other.
Yeah.
And so I just want to commend y'all on y'all's excellent love journey. And I can't wait to hear more about it. I'm gonna have y'all come back and hear what happens after year 1, 2, or whatever.
So much, man.
It's so much, and this journey is so beautiful. And listen, I'm just proud of y'all, and I thank y'all so much for taking time out with me for the Dear Future Wifey podcast. I honor y'all, and I speak blessings over y'all marriage.
Thank you.
Let's give it up for the Elliots. Dear Future Wifey, I'm imagining us as newlyweds. The wedding is over and we've settled into married life. We are truly the answered prayer for each other. Finishing each other's sentences is the norm. Anticipating the needs of each other is our self-imposed gratifying quest. We battle with who can love the other the greatest. We compete with who can make amends the fastest, never allowing the sun to go down on our anger. We relish in God's sovereignty to befittingly and so perfectly align us together to fulfill his purpose. We're humbled by the comprehension that we are the personification of God's love. God loved us so much that he blessed us with each other. Inscribed upon our hearts is 1 Corinthians 13, 4 and 5. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. God is love, and love is you. I love you. My love. Your future hubby. Thank you for listening to the Dear Future Wifey podcast. Remember, be lit, live intentionally and transparently, and don't stop loving. Make sure to subscribe to our Dear Future Wifey YouTube channel. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and Stitcher. We welcome your support. Simply share our podcast with your friends and family.